This episode is brought to you by Audible, the place not to read. Check out our affiliate link where you get a 30 free day trial when you sign up, get 1 audiobook free, plus 2 Audible originals. You can cancel it at any time. Go to audibletrial.com/YAGS. That is YAGS for yet another geek show. Hello and welcome back to yet another geek show where I'm the one who always opens because these two doofuses can't think of anything funny. I'm your host, Alex Ecker.
I'm your host, Alton Munnell.
I'm your host, Josh Keir.
So,
I wish I could have came up with something funny right there, but I guess it's more fitting that I didn't, huh?
Yeah, I guess so.
Fair enough.
Got us pegged.
Josh, how was your week off?
It was not too bad. Not too bad.
Your week off from this 1 to 2 hour a week job, not a week off from a real job.
Right. I was like, no. I went to work this week, but I just didn't record this. Yeah. No. Yeah. I had a very nice dinner instead.
Saved you 2 hours. That constitutes a week off.
If only. Can't wait to live in that future.
Me either, dude.
Jeez. All right. Well, hopefully with your extra week in there, you've got something for us.
Well, the funny thing is the main thing that I finished this week, I don't even think I can really talk about because we're going to be spotlighting it at some point down the line. I, over the weekend, finished playing through The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past on the Super NES.
Ooh, okay.
Oh, boy. Yeah.
Let's give you like 3 minutes. Like, talk about it, but not too much. Because we're definitely doing it soon.
So... yeah, I mean, that's literally if we're going to continue going in release order, that is literally the next Zelda game that we will be spotlighting since we've done Zelda 1 and Zelda 2 already.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that was the very next in line. Well, in that case...
Oh, yeah. If we're going to keep going, this one's up next.
Oh, boy.
All right, you guys will hear about that one, and we've got some other spotlights lined up. So
what I have to say about it right now is that it is a Zelda game, and I played it.
Wow, excellent. All right.
That sounds like a great thing that you did.
Yeah, come back in around a month or so to hear more about that. Speaking of things we can't really talk about because we're spotlighting, there is a loophole that we can talk a little bit about previous seasons of Game of Thrones here. So you guys remember that I was simultaneously, foolishly trying to rewatch the old seasons while the current season was airing, which
keyword
is the
being
worst
foolish.
way. Yeah. Worst way to watch anything ever. But having watched 6 and 7 now, since we realized the spotlight is going to be strictly on season 8 and not on the series as a whole as we originally planned, because there is so much to say about season 8.
Mm-hmm.
Let's maybe use a few minutes here to talk about just your feelings on the show prior to season 8, because previously we pushed it off expecting to do a whole series spotlight. That's not going to happen.
Josh, do you want to start?
How were you feeling before season 8, Josh?
Before season 8, I was expecting to be let down. And I was... but I was let down even more strongly than I anticipated, so they were still able to shock me.
All right, well, I guess that's the note we'll be going into that episode with.
Wow.
So you weren't feeling 7? Or did it start before that?
No, season 7 was, in my opinion, complete bullshit and spectacle. I think they started with... I'm assuming I can just drop as many spoilers as I want right now.
Yeah, go for it.
We're talking about season 7 of an 8-season-long TV show. If you are going to watch Game of Thrones and you haven't already, maybe don't. But also, like, just don't set yourself up for that disappointment, but also just don't listen to this right now. Anyway, season 7, they very clearly started with writing that season with, wouldn't it be sweet if the Night King got one of the dragons, and wrote the entire season backwards from there to engineer that whole contrived situation happening, causing pretty much every character to backtrack on their characterization or do just completely stupid things that previously in the show they had demonstrated that they were too smart to do, but they did them anyway because the plot demanded it.
Okay.
So we could get our whole fan service, like Ocean's 11, Mission Beyond the Wall, and all the stupid crap that happened. The last 2 seasons of Game of Thrones, and even the couple seasons before that, started basically once the show passed the books, in my opinion, they started to value spectacle and shock over solid writing and like internal consistency. And in season 7 it was nowhere more apparent than in that one, in my opinion.
Okay.
Okay. Wow. I mentioned previously not being a big fan of season 5 because I didn't really care for the Dorne stuff, but I didn't consider that a major downside. Just, this isn't as great as the seasons before it. Now, 6 and 7, I'm going to be honest, I didn't finish my rewatch, and I'm just talking about them anyway, because wouldn't it be weird not to come in here and talk about all but 2 seasons I didn't finish? So I'm going off a couple-year-old memory here, but honestly, I don't remember watching those with such a critical eye and having a whole lot to be upset about, other than feeling that season 7 had the issue of being way too rushed because the showrunners were just done with it when it really wasn't time to be.
Yeah.
I'm sure that you could have a lot of great examples where if you explained it to me, I'd go, yeah, you're right, that does suck. But I don't remember being upset about a whole lot at the time. I do remember feeling like it wasn't as great as the first 4 seasons or so, but I also consider those first 4 seasons or so to be a perfect show. So I can allow a certain amount of not being as good, if that makes sense. You can be disappointing for Game of Thrones and still be better than the average TV show.
Oh, absolutely. And pretty much up through season 7, like, I definitely noticed the decline in quality from seasons 5 and 6, but I still watched them and mostly enjoyed them. Besides, I still don't like what they did with Sansa in season 5. But, I mean, geez, the season 6 ending completely took me by surprise. And the number one thing that immediately made me upset in season 7 is that, like, everywhere before in Game of Thrones, people's actions had consequences, and absolutely nothing happened to Cersei after blowing up the Sept and killing like thousands of people.
Yeah.
Everyone was like, cool, I guess you're still queen.
I guess that's fine.
I guess ultimately it did nothing but establish her as a bigger villain than she already was at that point.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
Like, you just blew up the Pope and, like, the most loved, like, Marjorie Tyrell, like, the most loved person by the populace in the kingdom, and your decently well-liked king just died, and everyone's like, cool, I guess Cersei's queen now, even though we hate her, and she obviously did it. Okay.
Right.
I mean,
that's
maybe
fine.
The point is that, you know, being overthrown and losing that power takes a little more than not being liked. I mean, we can look at America today for a less extreme example of not being liked, not being good enough, you know. Granted, you know, this is a fictional fantasy universe, so a much bigger extreme than what we're seeing in the real world, but point being, to a lot of people, there's an obvious, and this person did a thing and probably shouldn't be in power, but maybe the point is, you know, that's not enough.
And sure, like, that's fine if that's not enough to, like, cause mass rioting in the streets or the populace tries to overthrow her themselves or whatever. But my problem with it is that it's literally not touched on at all.
Sure, that's fair.
They just don't even reference that it happened, and that's probably because of the accelerated schedule of season 7 and 8 not being the full 10 episodes.
Yes.
And honestly, that...
Hell, 10 episodes, more like 20. Both of these seasons really should have been 2 full ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It was the single biggest problem I have with the last 2 seasons. not to go too far into the ending because we're about to spotlight it, but I don't really have a problem with what happened as opposed to how they got there.
Sure. So maybe if the books exist one day, and I am not betting money on it, maybe we'll get a better version of that.
Maybe.
Yeah, I'm real psyched for Game of Thrones Brotherhood in 10 years.
I've been hearing people suggest that, well, let the source material finish, and then 10 years after that or so, we'll get our Brotherhood version of it. And I guess, I assume most people are joking and don't honestly think that would happen. But man, the issue if that did happen would be the first 4 seasons were so good. I don't want to see anyone do it again with different actors. I mean, even the cast is top notch the whole way through the show. The writing suffers, but so much of the rest of it is so consistently good that, man, it doesn't feel worth remaking ever, really.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. However, I do have to say, apparently there's been a petition that's been going around to try and rewrite the last season of Game of Thrones.
Yeah, which ultimately,
I really, really dislike the fan petition thing.
Me too.
That's been it's somehow a trend now on the internet, and I don't get it. It just seems like entitled bitching.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I'll, on one hand, give the point that the idea isn't, we honestly think we'll convince someone to redo this, and that it's really just of sending the message, hey, we hate this much. So I get that, but it's still ridiculously childish. And I guess we'll get more into this in the spotlight, but I find the reaction to this season to be absurd. I have plenty of disappointments, but the reaction and the way the people working on the show are talked about, and it's incredibly lame and thoughtless and rude. It's just, it's too much.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely
I completely agree. I don't have that many positive things to say about the way the show ended, but I mean, on every other aspect but writing, I don't think anybody can argue that Game of Thrones wasn't a master class in literally everything else: casting, acting, set design, soundtrack, special effects, literally everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah, certainly
was perfect besides the plot. And that's regrettable, but it is what it is.
Absolutely. So
for the most part, I was still, you still can't find a more entertaining show out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I started keeping up with the show, I want to say right after season 3, but yet this is the first time that after each episode, I went online and looked at discussions and was interested in what other people thought. Were people generally this disappointed during season 7, or was that just you, Josh?
No, it was. So there was, I guess, in hindsight, naive hope that, like, a lot of people were raising concerns as to, hey, this all seems really rushed. People are teleporting all over the world in a way that doesn't make sense for people that have a linear understanding of time. But maybe they're just rushing everything because they need to move all the pieces into place for, like, season 8 to completely blow us away, because that was when they announced that they were going to take an extra year to make season 8, and, like, they're only doing 6 episodes, but they're all going to be almost movie length. So really, maybe they just have to kind of set everything up in this season to, like, really nail the finale.
So you kind of excuse it as, like, setup at the time.
Yes.
You don't know if that setup's
that's kind of how the air online was at the time.
Yeah, it's kind of like Age of Ultron. You watch it and you're like, well, that was a bit disappointing, but maybe it just needed to be there for all this setup. And all that setup pays off too at some point. I don't know if that makes the movie being lesser any more acceptable, but it is what it is.
Can we talk about how many subscribers of HBO are going to be dropped off after this whole thing?
I think there's been a survey.
Probably a lot. I'd like to see the numbers.
Me too. A survey that estimated like a third.
Oh, wow.
A third of people.
Yeah, I'd really like to see some numbers to see, like, how drastically they dropped. Just because, like, like we said, this is a very beloved show, regardless of how it ended or how people's opinions sway.
Yeah, well, okay, I was going to say more about that, but I'll save it for the spotlight. In the meantime, I'll say that I'm not ending my subscription right away because I've found other shows to love on HBO, such as Barry. Has anyone watched Barry on HBO?
No.
I've heard of
Same.
it. I don't even know what it's about, but I've just heard people saying this show's amazing.
I absolutely love this. The season 2 finale played the same night as the Game of Thrones finale. And
Oh, okay.
it might have been the more rewarding experience of the night.
Ouch.
So, Barry, Bill Hader, I believe he's a writer and producer on the show and the lead star. Did you both watch Dexter when it was good?
Yeah, I got up to season 7. I still intend on finishing it.
Don't.
Even though I know, but I need to finish it just because I need something to bitch about on this show.
In fact, find a way to wipe 5 and 6 and 7 from
I
your
already
brain.
know what happens in the end.
Yeah.
There's
Anyway.
8 seasons, dude.
Anyway, Josh, you?
I didn't watch it thoroughly. I would catch an episode here and there, but I wasn't super invested in it.
Okay, so it feels a lot like Dexter when it was at the top of its game. And it was good in that the lead character played by Bill Hader, Barry, he's a killer as well. Not a serial killer, though. He's an assassin. And the setup of episode 1 is that he's an assassin that wants to get out of what he's doing and become an actor instead. And so you end up getting these Dexter vibes in that on one hand, there's a lot of comedy that's pulled from just the absurdity of the situation. But on the other hand, there's all the drama of the crime stuff. And it's a better show than Dexter ever was. And man, did I love that show for 4 seasons. So I don't make that comparison lightly. I don't know what else to say about it. Oh, it also stars the Fonz as an acting instructor.
Oh.
I don't remember his name, but the Fonz is good enough. And it's just, I don't know, the action is really compelling and well done. It's just, I don't really have any criticisms at all. And I don't want to spoil too much of it. I'll say, I guess I'll just mention that the other characters are consistently compelling too. It's not just like a fun, exciting lead. It's when it comes to what I guess you would call the villains of the show, even though it's an HBO show on a serious, matter and it's a crime show and everything, they're not afraid to let the villains be just a little bit absurd, just a little bit over the top. Don't dial it to 11, dial it to 10.2. And so there's just a lot of humor out of there. There's one in particular, this Chechnyan gangster with a really fun accent and a really fun personality who he simultaneously, is a badass, scary gangster, but also like he's really polite and really wants to be Barry's best friend. And he's just always getting excited over dumb little stuff. And he's just really endearing, and he can flip on a dime between needing to be scary this moment and just being hilarious the next. Yeah, definitely check that out, you guys.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to probably try to, because I know my wife and I, we were looking at starting to watch Chernobyl
On HBO.
Yeah.
Oh, I was interested in that as well,
It looks really good, even just from the trailers.
because they were playing the ads for it before Game of Thrones every week, and
Yeah, that was definitely.
what can I
part of
say?
it.
They're doing something right in their advertising department, because I do want to check that out, and I also want to finally get around to watching Westworld before I end up dialing
I've
back
heard-
my subscription.
I've heard nothing but good things about Westworld. Have you watched it at all, Dalton, or do you know anything about it? Because I'm honestly clueless.
I watched season 1. I haven't gotten to 2 yet. I'm probably going to rewatch it since it's been so long. But
Okay.
yeah, it's excellent. I definitely recommend that. And there's Silicon Valley and there's Veep. There's plenty of reasons to stick around for HBO.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like to point out right now that this podcast is not sponsored by HBO, but if they would like to sponsor us,
Yeah. Give us an
clearly
HBO
we're good
show.
at selling your shit.
HBO, if you would like to remake Game of Thrones season 8 and sponsor us.
Oh man!
geez.
Speaking
Okay.
of movies and shows and stuff, I finally got to watch the My Hero Academia movie.
Oh, all right.
As far as anime movies go,
Josh, did you go see this in the theater?
I did. I did.
oh Josh, you did see it. I didn't know that.
yes.
What was your take on it? Because honestly, I really enjoyed it.
I did too. I mean, it was nothing. It was nothing mind blowing.
No, absolutely not. But
It was pretty. It was pretty typical anime movie,
Yeah.
but
the one thing,
I found it enjoyable, and I just love the characters in My Hero Academia
Yeah,
so much that just giving them an excuse to interact with each other, I'm pretty much like I'm all in at this point. I'll pretty much eat up whatever they put
right?
out.
I do love how they explained things. You know what I mean? Because I mean, yeah, Dalton and I have had this conversation where we kind of get annoyed when things have to be explained instead of just showing it to us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they kind of had to explain what was going on without having any context for the people that would, you know, if this is their introduction to the show, or you know what I mean, like they weren't like invested or anything, they wouldn't have had an explanation as to, you know, certain like inside things from the show would make sense in the movie. Like
You run into that anime movie thing where you have to provide at least a moderate explanation so the parents of the kids that dragged them to the movie theater can at least have a basic understanding of what the hell's going on.
Josh, I'm glad you said that because I was going to say, nah, seems weird to me, the idea that this would be someone's introduction. But yeah, there you go. Parents that don't want to be there. Fair enough.
the animation in it was fucking astounding. Like I
that was
loved-
top notch for sure.
Yeah, all the visuals in it were amazing. Dalton, you have to watch this movie because I know you're a fan of My Hero as well. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It was really nice to see, like, because we know All Might's like the number one hero and everything, but like we really don't get to see him in action in the show. And they gave a lot of highlight to All Might in this movie, even though it was sort of, well, it was kind of brief, but I don't know. They did focus on him a bit, which kind of gave more of an appreciation of his character to an audience. I don't know why they needed to, because I love him. He's one of my favorite characters in an anime. It's funny.
Absolutely. I spent years insisting that I would never watch another goddamn anime that takes place in a school.
Whoops.
And then you people kept demanding I watch this show anyway, and I'm glad I did. And I don't really care what this movie's about. It just has characters that are so damn entertaining
Yeah.
that I don't care if the story's any good or if the writing makes any sense. The characters are just too fun, and that's all I needed.
Yeah.
Yep, that's how I felt. The characters are fun. There's some great action scenes, and the animation's top notch. Really, for like an anime movie, you can't ask for anything more.
Right. Yeah. It was very good.
And what was interesting for me, actually, because I did go see this in theaters when it was out. That was actually my first time when the showing that I went to was actually playing the English dub. And I'm more used to watching the Japanese audio with subtitles. So I'd actually never really heard the English dub of My Hero Academia before, and I was actually like incredibly surprised with how well done it was.
Yeah, Chris Sabat plays All Might. I don't know if you guys are. I'm sure Josh, you're a fan of Team 4-Star.
Oh yeah,
did you ever watch their Final Fantasy VII abridged?
I have not actually.
Because the guy who voices Cloud is actually Midoriya in My Hero.
Okay. Yeah, whoever they had playing Deku was actually, like, I feel like perfect for his English voice, and
Justin Briner.
you can't get any better than Major Armstrong as All Might.
Yeah, I watched two seasons.
Oh, Chris
as
Sabat,
a dub. I watched 2 seasons dubbed and then 1 season subbed, and yeah, I could take it or leave it either way. They're both pretty consistently good. I don't have a strong preference either way.
Which, the fact that you have that opinion at all, Dalton, I think really speaks to the quality of the dub.
Yeah.
Because normally it's watch the sub. It's not even close. The dub is garbage. And this is one of the very few shows where I could say, like, actually, it's pretty understandable if you'd rather just watch the dub. Like, you're not really going to get a noticeable decline in quality.
Yeah, I'm normally a pretty strong proponent of watching the subbed, but nope, not here. You're good either way. So
yeah, watch My Hero and the movie because it's really good.
Yeah, season 4 when?
October.
Oh, that's right. It's coming out soon. Cool.
Oh, I did.
Maybe we'll spotlight that.
I wanna.
Announced. That's cool.
Yeah, at least last I checked, it was October. Which actually, funny side note, I'm gonna maybe be moving in October. I don't know yet. So yeah.
Josh, Attack on Titan's back on. I know you love that so much still.
Yeah. Okay.
I never finished season 2 of that show.
That's fine. Josh, you got anything for us besides Zelda?
I gave up on Attack on Titan halfway through, and I can't explain why without spoiling the biggest plot twist in the entire series for people that haven't watched it or haven't gotten through season 2. So I'm just going to shut up, but basically the show is bullshit.
I think I'm gonna have to watch until the end of season 2 to find out why.
Yeah.
Have you seen it? Have you seen any of it, Alex?
Of Attack on Titan
Yeah.
or of season 2? Because I'm
Of Attack on Titan in general, I guess.
yeah, I'm like maybe midway through season 2 or close to the end. I can't remember.
And then you got sidetracked watching it like 3 years ago, and
Yeah,
that illustrates how much you gave a shit.
yeah.
I mean, if you
there was
haven't
a lot
gotten
of
to the
hype,
complete bullshit part, you would have known if you had gotten there.
but I'll finish the season and get back to you on that, man.
Well, no one's pressuring you.
Oh, cool. I feel pressure all the time now to try and finish things for the podcast.
Josh, you got anything else?
I think so. They're going into what, season 4 now? Because I think there's a whole other season that I just refused to watch because I was done after season 2.
I think this is 3.5.
3.5.
Yeah, I don't know why.
Did the third season like have a break in the middle?
Yeah, and I didn't even know until it came back. But I guess that's what TV does now.
I know some longer running shows do that sometimes.
Oh, hey guys. Speaking of things to finish, this will be the 4th time we've talked about it, but I finally beat Sekiro.
Okay, fine. If you finished it, I'll allow it.
Okay, cool. I do want to point out that there's a new game plus mode after you beat it.
Yeah, typical of From Software titles.
No
okay,
chance in hell.
It's actually you keep all your stats and stuff. You keep all of your items for the most part, except for like certain story items. But the game is a lot harder.
Oh, no, that's what I'm saying. Not a chance in hell. Once I finally conquer this mountain, which I really should have done by now, but you know me, I'm in a million 40-hour games at the same time and just never went back to it. But once I finally conquer that mountain, no, there's no way I go back for a round 2.
I think I got the best ending or the secret ending to the game.
Are there multiple endings?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
As far as I'm aware of, there are 4.
Okay. Yeah. Josh, have you beat it yet?
I haven't because I guess this will be an update for the listeners. The video card on my computer died like 2 weeks ago,
that's right.
and I can't play anything right now without my computers completely crashing. I ordered the parts for a new rig, and they all came in yesterday. And I spent a good 5 hours last night trying to build my new computer, but I haven't quite gotten there yet. I'm at the point where all the parts are installed on the motherboard, and it's just not turning on. Which, for anybody who's built a computer, you know it never turns on the first time you try, so it's not a real big surprise.
No, normally, Josh, it will turn on the first time if you don't put the side panel on.
That's it. Well, that was my mistake. I put it back on.
If you put the side panel back on, you've pretty much guaranteed it is not going to start.
Josh, I'm going to give you the best piece of PC building. I've given it to Dalton for years. Dalton can vouch for I've helped him years and years on building his PCs. Josh, have you tried shaking it?
Go to
I was
hell.
wondering where the hell you were going with this. I'm like, you taught me how to build PC.
Every time my computer does something weird, I'm like, Dalton, help.
I have, in fact, not tried shaking it.
Try it and tell me what happens.
I'm going to not do that.
Okay,
But
well, try that.
Thanks
If it doesn't
anyway.
work, then check the wires coming from the case.
anyway, long story short, I haven't finished Sekiro, but I was really cramming through it when my computer died, and my computer actually died while playing Sekiro. So
Josh,
game is so hard it killed my video
Well,
card.
maybe once your big boy computer is fixed, you'll occasionally join us for the now officially announced yet another Let's Play
Yeah.
I would love to.
that we talked about on this show 3 or 4 times already, like 2 months ago, but is now officially announced.
Which is really funny because I'm doing all the video editing for yet another Let's Play, and I'm listening to the conversations that you and I are having, Dalton, and we're like, listen to our podcast. It's not out yet, but listen to it when it comes out. So this was back in February when we started doing this.
Who needs continuity?
Oh, that was so funny.
Jeez. All right. So your final thoughts on Sekiro?
It's a very good game. If you don't treat it like a Dark Souls game, you have to treat it with actual combat in mind and knowing how the mechanics work very in depth towards the end. Story wise, I'm not a big fan of. I mean, I'll read text inside of the game to understand what's going on in the story, but some of the stuff I feel like I might have missed because it was in text, and I don't know. Going back and restarting the game on New Game Plus is kind of like certain bits of dialogue. I'm like, oh, now that makes sense with what happened in the end, or that makes sense why this happened now. So I think New Game Plus is really kind of giving me like a new lease on the game.
Mm-hmm.
So even if you beat it, I do recommend going back and at least trying it again.
Well, you putting serious effort into a New Game Plus mode, I'm going to take as a strong recommend because I almost never do that myself. I am not much
it's a
of
very
game
good game
player.
Which is
I haven't finished it yet, but I'm planning right now on definitely giving it at least a second go through.
Oh, well, all right. That'll give me time to beat it once.
oh man,
all I can say is this: I don't know when the combat clicks for you in Sekiro, like. I just haven't had so much fun in a game for a really long time.
I wish there were more games with the combat style because it's not like it's super unique, but it's unique to its own. Like
it just feels so
it's
good.
very fluid.
Like when you finally click on a boss and you get all your deflect timings down and you know like where are your windows of vulnerability where you can attack, and when you finally like get through those 2 or 3 or 4 health bars, God forbid. Well, just like nothing feels better.
You're absolutely right. It's
this game's a friggin' rush. It makes you feel like a god as much as it makes you feel like a complete sucky idiot.
I'd like to see Assassin's Creed drop the RPG stuff and start taking notes from here.
right.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, could be a good fit.
Certainly.
Yeah, so I played a game that I didn't I don't want to say rage quit because that implies it got too hard and I quit. I just didn't like it, quit. Which would be Box Boy and Box Girl. I don't know if you guys are
I'm not
with
familiar.
this franchise.
Nope.
I've heard of the game, but have not. I don't really know much about it.
Okay, so this entry came out on the Switch, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks ago, and it's the third in a Box Boy series that started on DS. This third one is Box Boy and Box Girl and adds a co-op campaign with Box Girl. And I was intrigued because it's a HAL Laboratories game. Cool. Published by Nintendo. Cool. Looks and feels like an indie game. Cool. Let's give this a shot. And it does have a really interesting mechanic I've never seen anywhere else, which gets it points with me by default, which is that your character is, as his name implies, he's perfectly box shaped. And the unique mechanic is that you can't jump very high or very far, but instead you can produce a certain number of blocks out of your body to do what you want with. So going into a level, it'll say you can generate, let's say, 4 boxes at a time. And so you'll have to create platforms out of those 4 boxes at a time you can generate to help navigate across the platforming level. And then at the end of the level, you get a certain amount of points or whatever they called this currency or whatever. It's arbitrary. You get a certain number of stars or whatever it is based on staying under a certain minimum of boxes used in the stage. And so this is a really cool, interesting mechanic that I give it huge props for. I assume the mechanics have been the same through all 3 games, but I've only touched this one. But I don't know. It just wasn't doing it for me anyway. Because at the end of the day, I just didn't find the mechanic to be fun. For no particular reason, I played through 4 worlds of levels. I want to say that came out to somewhere between 20 to 30 levels total before I quit on it. And I don't know, I just didn't feel smart when I solved the puzzles.
And I know exactly why.
Why?
It's because they gave you too many boxes to use.
Well, no, because you start out with 3 available, and then the puzzles get more complicated, and then you need the, say, 6 that are available. But I think ultimately, I don't know. I don't know if I can put into words. It's because it's not like there was a thing that was actively wrong here. It wasn't like this thing sucked. It was just this thing wasn't doing it for me.
See, when games do that for you, when it's like you can beat this in so many moves, but we'll give you extra moves to beat it.
Mm-hmm.
That means that their game is challenging, sure, but it also feels like it feels like it's racking up playtime. You know what I mean?
Well, so that's with regards to the try to get through the level only using, let's say, 12 blocks.
Right.
But the mechanic of you can only use, say, 3 at a time or 6 at a time, that's a constant.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So
I don't know. I'd have to play it to really understand what's going on, because I've seen games that I know I'm thinking of do it, and it just doesn't feel like it's rewarding when you win.
Yeah. In any case, gameplay just wasn't doing anything for me. The visuals are overly simple and really not doing anything for me, because everything is just a black outline around a shape. Just black lines on white backgrounds and white boxes. And just nothing going on interesting visually at all. No color anywhere, except really small bursts of it here and there, like an electricity obstacle that's yellow, some worlds into it. But just, visually doing nothing for me. I can't speak to the music because I was playing in handheld mode with my volume down. So I couldn't tell you if that was any good or not. But yeah, this is going to be a pass for me. Just doing nothing for me. Not really interested in looking into the prior titles in the franchise.
Yeah. Well, fair enough.
Yeah, nothing major to pick on. It just didn't do anything for me.
Yeah, it wasn't your wheelhouse of what you like to go for in games.
Yeah. Well, and I don't normally mind games that are puzzle games disguised as platformers, which is what the Portal games are, and I love those games.
But those games are also very visually stimulating as well.
Yeah, that's true. It has an interesting world and great characters and yeah. So it is what it is.
Oh yeah.
Either of you got anything else?
I'm pretty lame this week. I've been busy with
I spent
editing.
most of my gaming time trying to build a computer to do more gaming. So unfortunately, that's an investment that won't pay off until future
I've
weeks.
been doing most of my gaming time watching Dalton and I bitch at each other while editing videos.
All right, fair enough. I've had a good week. I'll continue killing all our time then. Last week, we reintroduced VR Game of the Week after it disappeared for a month or so while I moved.
Yeah.
And I opened up a game called Form. Alex, I don't know if you browse through the VR section on Steam and see any of these, but this one...
You said Form, not Gorn?
Form.
Okay.
Yes. This game has been around for a while in terms of modern PC VR games. And so it falls into that trap of not being a lot of content for the buck. I think it's a $15 game, and I think I bought it half off at some point in time, which again, to some within reason, I'm happy to spend more money than I should on a VR title because I want to fund that industry, and I understand that they can't ship a lot of units on a title. So it is what it is. But Form is maybe only an hour long, and it's a puzzle game in VR. But what really sells it is like the visual of it. You're a scientist and you start out in a lab and you're like messing with some alien artifacts. And, you mess around with the right couple of things on the desk, and all of a sudden you're transported into this world that, I mean, it's not totally clear if it's an alien thing or if it's like crazy sci-fi technology or if it's like some spiritual thing. This place that you're in, but you're just continuing to solve puzzles while being in just this really abstract space. And I guess it's called Form because it's kind of like the designers are putting a lot of thought and effort into like, building these pieces to the puzzles and like watching, maybe you figured out how to open this crazy sci-fi box and it opens like some kind of transformer robot with all these moving and twisting parts and turns into something else that you use for the next puzzle.
Okay.
The score is incredible. Like look up the soundtrack, even if you never play it.
Well, I'll probably play it because I intend on fixing my headset this next paycheck.
Right. So both in terms of like fitting the setting and just being really fascinating to listen to. Actually, at some point, there's even a puzzle that uses the music.
Oh,
I'm going to kind of spoil to you how to solve this puzzle because it took me a few minutes, but it was so cool when I realized what was happening, where there were 4 different items in front of me that were all generating musical tones, and I could move these sliders up and down these 4 objects in front of me, and it took me a long time to figure out what it wanted me to do. And I like slid one of them onto one particular note where it stopped, like, hey, you got this one, don't play with that one anymore. And I kept screwing around with the other 3, like, what does it want me to do? And mind you, I'm hearing the notes coming out of all 4 of them at the same time. And eventually I realized, it's trying to get me to match the musical notes I'm hearing. So whatever the note was, that first one's playing, let's say, a C. The puzzle was move the other ones until they harmonize and make that C with it.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah. So, it's like the story's barely there. That's not really meaningful. And the puzzles didn't really make me feel smart, but they introduced just some fun mechanics to work with in VR. And it did some things I haven't seen other VR games do as far as puzzles. And the music was great, and the visual atmosphere is great. And I definitely recommend it, but on a sale, because this $15 for an hour-long VR game thing is getting old.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. But, I mean, some people would find more of it than just an hour through it, Maybe they'd want to spend that $15 on it. Not that we're sponsored by the guys who made it, but, give them that sweet money. They worked hard.
Yeah, that said, you know what? I was going to talk about John Wick 1 and 2, which I just rewatched, but since I didn't make it to 3 yet, I'll make this a short one so we can move on to Game of Thrones, and I'll just talk about all 3 of those next week.
Okay, cool, because I was going to say I still haven't seen John Wick 2.
Looking forward to that. I need to get out to see the 3rd. I love me some John Wick, though.
Still haven't seen 2, guys.
Oh, never mind. This is a spotlight now. Watch out for that.
Yeah, shut up.
Didn't know Josh was going to go.
I intend on seeing 3. I just have to see 2 first, so...
I'm in the same boat. Kyla hasn't seen 2, so I want to watch that with her, and then we're going to try to get to the movies. But honestly, I think if I get to the movies this week, it's going to be for Detective Pikachu first, and then John Wick 3. Because I'm garbage, and those are my priorities in life.
Well, maybe we'll all make it to the theater twice this weekend.
Maybe we can all make it a triple date.
Gross. All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. Go listen to the Game of Thrones episode that has already released by the time you're hearing this.
And every other podcast episode that we've done.
And all the other ones. Peace out.
And change my diaper.
I said peace out.
Goodbye.